Y'all gonna be mad at me if I laugh? So I need to add context. But first, before we actually get into the game, I apologize for having the stream still live for like 25 minutes yesterday after I like you guys were messaging me. I know Valeria messaged me. A couple of you guys messaged me. I think Mo called me. I think Kel called me. Um, and you guys were like, your thing is still live. And I was like, oh shit. And then I came back and I turned it off. And I was like, but I'm a good girl. So like it's not like anything weird happened or anything, but yeah, so I apologize for that. But you guys are probably going to be mad at me because the performance was really bad, but I avoided my personal 9/11, and so I just feel very grateful to have survived a near-death experience, and that near-death experience was potentially losing to United on the first day of the season. Sorry, guys. I Any day that we beat them, no matter how we beat them, I kind of don't give a fuck. I'm gonna be really honest. I have to like literally turn my phone off at points because the constant updates gives me the heebie-jeebies, and my hands were like this the entire time. But listen, scammers gonna scam. Scammers are going to scam, and we scammed the fuck out of that. That was not a 3 points that I felt like. So here's how I think about it. I think you deserve exactly what you get in football. United didn't score, so they didn't deserve shit from the game. But I would say that we weren't the better team. And so if United can go to the bank with the better team 3 points, then fair enough. I'll take the real 3 points because ultimately many teams have played against us, nicked points, and did fuck all. So I really don't feel any type of way. I'm not going to sit here and be like, they deserve something. Fuck them. I don't give a shit. Beginning of the game, they were up there talking about, we're going to win 3-1. I just have a great feeling. Well, good feeling that. Good feeling that. You were as good as you're probably going to be all season, and we were as bad as we were going to ever be, hopefully. And we scammed them 3 points on your head top. So there you go. But listen, I am not sitting here saying that we had a good performance. I hope people understand that. It was terrible. It was one of the worst performances that I've ever seen from Arsenal. But I think we have to look at it from multiple, directions because we actually don't know. We actually don't know how this is going to go. If you're maybe more of a pessimist, you're probably looking at this as a sign of worse things to come. I've seen people say, if we do that at Anfield, we're going to do this. If we do that here, we're going to do this. Or you can think at it from a half glass full type of thing. And it's the first game of the season. Clearly dudes are rusty. Nobody was really playing at their best, but we still won the game. So you can do whatever you want with that. You are more than entitled to have your own way of digesting a performance like this. But where I personally stand on it is the only thing I was really disappointed in was the lack of fluidity, chemistry, and cohesion in the final third. The defense is going to sort itself out. To be honest, as long as you have Gabrielle back there, you have Raya back there, you'll probably be fine. I think we were under it, but beyond like maybe 1 or 2 chances, I don't necessarily feel like we were under that much pressure. They were like in our half taking shots and stuff, but it wasn't like, oh shit. I only think there was like one time where I felt like, ooh, we were in trouble there. But I really only can think about, to be honest, the lack of fluidity and cohesion and chemistry in that final third. The first and only coherent attack that we had came when Kai Havertz was on the pitch, and it was in about the 65th minute, and it ended with a Declan Rice shot that got blocked. And I just feel like we just lack the ability to put teams under pressure. We don't really know how to unlock teams. We're really poor on the counterattack. I think We tried to lean into the basketball game today. We definitely did not try to sit on the edge of their box and tiki-taka and all that kind of stuff. But when we got into the basketball game, the worst part about it is they were much better at it than we were in terms of being able to create opportunities. And so they're going to have to go back and look at tape and figure out why we would pass right through them, get to the position where, we're passing it into those channels, and you get it, you lose it. You try to beat somebody, they nick it off of you, you're tripping yourself. Like, why are you not able to, at least get a good cross in? So many things, and ultimately when United were attacking, it did feel like they had 7 or 8 people attacking at once. When we are attacking, it feels like it's 2 or 3 people against 8 people. And I think that's because we don't take risks. At one point I saw Delit making a late man run into the box. I'm like, they're just going for it. And I don't think we really did the same. In terms of individual performances, to be honest, I know we're going to have different opinions on this because I can already see in the chat people are picking out Odegaard. But to be honest, like, if you think Odegaard was the worst performer today or had the worst performance, I do think you're being probably just it's mostly your agenda against him, because he was probably our least poor attacker today. He was the only one that created anything. He gave the ball straight to Saka. He let Luke Shaw take the ball off of his toe. He gave it straight to Gyökeres and he tripped himself. He had a couple of bad moments as well, so he wasn't perfect. And that's not what I'm saying. But I had people messaging me when he lost the ball on transition, like, one time. And I'm like, so you don't see anybody else? I don't remember a thing Rice did. I don't think he was even in the game at all. So it's not really a tit for tat thing. I think we can kind of wrap everybody in the front five in a nice, neat little bow and say nobody was as good as they needed to be. Nobody was as good as they needed to be. It was not just Odegaard. It really was not just Saka. It really was not just Martinelli. But personally, I do think that my personal opinion is that if Odegaard was the worst, then how was Saka better? How was Martinelli better? How was Rice better? Because it's Odegaard almost had like because he had the ball the most, he was the one, but it's like nobody else did anything. I literally cannot remember a single thing that Saka, Martinelli, or Rice did. But I did see Odegaard on the ball a lot, and sometimes he fucked it. Sometimes he did really well with it, and it's really not his fault that he gave the ball to Gyökeres in his perfect position and he tripped himself, So ultimately, I think we can wrap the entire attack in a bow, not be pedantic, not be agenda-driven today, because I'm sorry, as much as I get that, I'm the Odegaard defender, so I literally have people like in my comments constantly giving it to me. If he was the worst, I would say it, and he wasn't. So let's just wrap it up. Wrap it the fuck up, like seriously. But we did win, and there's lots to work on. I think besides being really bad on transition, which if we're going to engage in the basketball game, which I think suits it was nice to, at least like from a positive perspective, not seeing us get into the standing on the edge of their box and passing it sideways and backwards. We had a lot of opportunities to hit them on the counter because they were wide open, but not being able to take advantage of it is a huge red flag. So, and that was something that we weren't really that bad at a couple seasons ago, but now we've gotten worse. So it's kind of scary that one time Odegaard got the ball and literally Saka and Martinelli just ran into each other, and neither of them made a run out wide. And Odegaard passed it out wide and nobody was there. And I know Odegaard got blamed, but the lack of cohesion and chemistry up front on transition is not an individual problem. It is a group problem. No matter who's out there, it doesn't get any better. Noni came out there, it didn't get any better. Martinelli was out there, it wasn't better. So as a group, they need to figure out how to be better on transition. The other big part that was, another part that I didn't really like was they weren't playing to Gyökeres at all. You know, I think he got one real chance, and then there was one chance that he created for Martinelli, and Martinelli tried to do a bicycle kick, and I just laughed to myself because I was like, "Why is Gyökeres creating chances for Martinelli? It should be the opposite." And so I do think Gyökeres had a bad first game in terms of just the overall scope of it, but he wasn't helped by his teammates because they weren't creating for him. So I'm not really like taking a lot from it, if that made sense. Like there's just nothing really to take from the Gyökeres performance, to be honest. So, um, but he held up the ball pretty well. He tried to get into positions, but we didn't get it to him. So it's a difficult one. You know, I feel like depending on how you feel about the player, you'll say that he was just shit. And if you like the player, you'll say it's just because the team didn't get him the ball, whatever. So yeah, we really need to figure out how to do better on transition and to get to the ball to the people that actually need it. But ultimately, I only saw like maybe one person trying to do anything, and that's the person being blamed for everything. So, yeah, Gyökeres was stinky, but it's only his first game. Let's see. Gyökeres was really bad. He was okay in holding and winning the ball, but the passes was lower than amateur level. I mean, lower than amateur level, I think is a little over the top. He had one cross that he made that was overhit, but outside of that, there wasn't really any passes that he was making because he didn't really touch the ball that much. So, yeah. And I think what's happening as well is people want to come to very quick and definitive conclusions about players, but it's just the first game of the season. So I'm finding it difficult to like stamp all these like failure. He's fucked. He's done. Oh my God. You know, because we know that's not how it works. Gyökeres, more than anything, did not get fed the ball. And if you only give him one chance, then because even in the game against Bilbao, he had a couple of baddish moments where, you know, he ran out with the ball, he hit it straight to the goalkeeper, and then on like his third or fourth chance, he put the ball in the back of the net. He needs more service, I think. And I think instead of him running off of Odegaard and him getting the ball and then crossing the ball to Martinelli, we need to be passing the ball to Martinelli and he needs to be giving the ball to Gyökeres because I nearly had a heart attack when Martinelli tried to do the bicycle kick. Seriously. Um, let's see. Not just we need another creator in midfield. This is a larger system issue. We don't have enough creativity. We should have never bought Noni. Well, I mean, Keenan, it's not necessarily like I'm saying we don't have a creativity problem, but I've been saying this for a long time that if you only have one creator in the team, you're going to get this result. Saka did nothing, so there was no other creator outside of Odegaard, and he was giving the ball to them, and they weren't giving the ball to anybody else. Gave the ball to Martinelli, he didn't do anything. Gave the ball to Saka, he didn't do anything. Gave the ball to Gyökeres, he didn't do anything. So I guess the question is, if Odegaard was so bad, then what was Rice? Because no offense to Rice, Rice is a great player, but he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. So you don't have another creator in the team. You don't have another 8 that you can give the ball to that's going to create on that side. It just, you know, I don't know. But we do need that. But in the actual like talking about this particular game, if this ends up, because here's the reality. The reality of where we are right now is we're not bringing in anyone else. We're not bringing in anyone else. So, if this is the team, then we need to find solutions within this team. So this team needs to be better on transition. This team needs to figure out how to feed Gyökeres. We're not buying Eze. So talking about Eze and talking about Rodrigo is almost like a lost conversation now. Those players are not coming in. So we need to figure out with this group what we're going to do. We've had this problem since Xhaka has left. Nobody has clocked it because they just want to blame the people that are there. But unless you have another player that can actually pass, create chances, you're only going to have one creator, and no good team has one creative player in their team except for Arsenal. So, you know, sorry. Let's see. I think Odegaard had a poor pass all through. That finishing pass was always important. Well, he gave a pass straight to Saka and he whacked it over the bar in like the 90th minute. The pass he gave to Gyökeres, that was not a bad pass. Gyökeres tripped himself. The pass that he gave to Saka in the first half, Saka couldn't get past Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw nicked the ball off of him. Actually, no, Mount. Mason Mount nicked the ball off of him. So, yeah, no, I'm sorry. It just feels as though you guys are recycling things without actually watching the game. Sorry. Like, and some of your things are not going to come off. I think that's another thing that kind of is irritating. It's you guys can watch other creative midfielders all day long and watch some of their things come off and some of their things not come off. But Odegaard has to get it right 100% of the time, or you can't see any of the good things that he does because you're so focused on the negative. When again, I ask you, if Odegaard was the worst, what was Rice? Because Rice did nothing in that game. I can't remember a single thing. Saka didn't do anything. Martinelli didn't do anything. At least I can name a couple of good things Odegaard did. So it was a group of bad performances, good midish performances, where some people were worse than others, and I just cannot put Odegaard at the bottom of that deck. I'm really sorry. Saka was poor today. He really was, but he has a lot of credit in the bank, and I would just imagine he's not fully fit. So yeah. Whole midfield was trash. I actually don't think the whole midfield was trash. I think Rice was non-existent. I think Odegaard did some good things. And I think Zubi actually did some good things as well. I really do think our problem was mostly isolated through, not being sharp, giving the ball away. I don't really remember Zubimendi giving the ball away. There were a lot of times he passed it through the lines, him and Calafiori. And when we got into the final third, we couldn't do anything with it. So, yeah, I don't know if I believe that the midfield was trash. I actually think the worst players on the pitch were further forward and mostly in the forward line, to be honest. So, yeah, because the back line, as bad as they kept a clean fucking sheet. I don't know. I think our forwards were far and clear our worst players. It wasn't even close. Zubi wasn't bad. It's the first day in the Prem. He really wasn't. I think we watched a completely different game. If you think Zubimendi had a bad game, I think you watched a completely different game. Genuinely, I think him and Calafiori and Odegaard did really good things, especially in the first half. But you give the ball to Martinelli, Saka wasn't on it. I don't know what to tell you. Zubi looked pretty good. He did. It's like, watch the game. Like, watch the fucking game. Seriously. I genuinely feel like we watch different games based on like the agenda. The main problem that we had is we tried to engage in the basketball game. And to be honest, if you asked for a more open style and you wanted us to play more direct, then you also have to be open to the other team having opportunities, which happened. And yeah, we probably could have stopped some more of them, and some of them were caused by our own, dispossessions and whatever. But when we got the ball, we were so poor with it. We were so fucking poor with it. And so I just don't feel like I watched a game where Zubimendi was poor. I don't think I watched a game where the defense was so bad. They kept a clean sheet, for fuck's sake, They had some bad moments, especially Saliba, I thought, had some really bad moments. But ultimately, the worst players on the pitch were far forward. Far forward. They were the worst players. And that makes the most sense to me because as you get closer towards the front, we get less, where our team is just not as good going forward. It's just something's wrong with them when they are on transition. So, yeah, needed Timber. I think that was a big thing as well. I think maybe people see in this game that as much as I do think that White is a good player, there's a level of security that we have with Timber that we do not have with him. And I think, if you have players like Dorgu getting past Ben White, I don't know. I do think Timber is the starter, and I don't actually think it's that close. I think as soon as Timber is fully fit, he will start. And that's no shade to Ben, but he's really vulnerable defensively, so much so that it almost cancels out whatever he does going forward. Because you just cannot establish any dominance in the game. Um, so yeah, I do think Timber is needed for sure. Saliba had some bad moments, but White for me was the worst. Timber needs to get in ASAP. Can't believe this performance. Damn, I miss Jesus Shaka link up. We didn't realize that season that they were the ones who made us cook. I mean, we had more than one creative player in the team at once. Jesus is very creative. Xhaka's maybe not creative, but he has a creative bag for sure. He has something in there. We don't have that anymore, and people are shocked that if you only have one creative player on the pitch at a time, that you lack creativity. But hey, whatever. Can we talk about how Cala was our best attacker today? Cala had a good game. Outside of getting the yellow, which I think, here's my thing is with Cala, I think you have to be aggressive on his side in order to get the best out of whatever he's giving you. And for the most part, we were doing that. But, you know, I would really want to see Calafiori with Noni, which I still don't know if that's the answer. I'm pretty negative on the Midwecky signing, to be honest. But I would like to see that because I feel like Cala wasn't helped by neither one of Rice or Martinelli. And so he was alone against Mboma over and over again until he ended up getting the yellow. And so then we had to make a decision on him staying in the game or not. And I think we lose something going forward when he's not out there. And so you have to make the best out of him being out there. And, you know, he connects that side and makes it a lot more fluid. But I still feel like it's clunky. I still feel like there's nothing there. I actually feel like there's no chemistry between our front three, except for, you know, when Kai is there, him and Saka have chemistry. But once you throw Gyökeres in there, there's no chemistry between anyone, and there's zero chemistry on the left-hand side. So he needs to figure out who's going to play in those positions. And I don't know if they work on it in training or what, but they need to learn how each other plays. They need to know where each other's going to run at. It feels very like I don't see any connection between that front three at all and the left-hand side. It's like they've never seen each other before. Calla makes it better because he's just a better player, and he's very like he knows what to do, and he has that thing that you need going forward. But it still doesn't compensate for having a left wing that's just disconnected from everyone else, and you know, a poor performance from Declan. Let's see. Madueke is such an upgrade on Martinelli. It's insane. I need to maybe rewatch it because I think at that point I was just looking at the clock and like ticking down the time, but I don't remember anything that Madueke did. I think he should have scored at the end of the game. That's pretty much the only thing that I saw. So maybe I have to go back and watch, but you know, you come in at a time where we make some subs and you know, there's no chemistry and the other team is pushing. I'm not quite sure what I would have imagined Noni doing, but I don't remember what he did, if that makes sense. So yeah. No chance we'll win the league. White got spun by Cunha. He did. He got spun and it was dark. It was dark. But that's the risk that you have with White. I think anybody who paints White as anything other than a very suspect defender, I think is being disingenuous. I think he's good on the ball, and when we have a lot of possession, he's better. But there's something about him against any good attacker where you just know they're going to get by him, you know? So it wasn't Rashford this time. It was Cunha, and they had the beating of him on that side. And I don't really feel like outside of maybe one run, we really felt the attacking side of Ben. And this is why whenever somebody's like, oh, well, Ben, it's going to be equal. I'm like, the only reason why I feel like it would be equal, but sharing time between Timber and White is because we're trying not to overexert either one of them because they both came off of big injuries and surgeries. But I really don't think that it's that close. I really think Timber is the better option, despite whatever chemistry him and Saka have. Let's see. I think when you play White and Cala, this is what you get defensively. We look so much more open. Personally, away from home, White shouldn't play at right back only those home games. Maybe let's see how he plays against Leeds. I think we should be a lot better against Leeds. And Timber's probably still not fit enough, but you also have to consider who do you want out there, against City and Liverpool. We play City at home. We also play Liverpool away. And after watching Nottingham Forest, playing them at home is going to be difficult as well. Do I want, White against Ndoye and Callum Hudson-Odoi and, Morgan Gibbs White tends to go on to that side? Probably not, so is Leeds a good game to get Timber a full 90? Maybe. Decisions to be made for sure. But, I do think that White still has a part to play. It's just you have to figure out the best times to play him. And today he got ate up. Like, I can't even lie, he got ate up. Let's see. Arteta sucks your mother. Okay. After today's performance, they better put on a show against Leeds. Timber starts every time he's fit. I believe Calafiori was the best player on the pitch. He was very good. I mean, I don't think anybody that was questioning his level, I think was high on crack. Like you cannot have ever watched Calafiori and thought that guy's shit. Like, no, he's not. He's not. He's not. He's actually a fabulous player, but he needs to maintain his fitness, So I think we came out unscathed today. So he starts against Leeds. It's just that simple. He's a great player. He's a special talent. If we could get some of that special talent in our forward line, maybe we'd do a little bit better, but whatever. I wouldn't mind White to start home against Leeds. That's not a hard game. I need Timber though at Anfield, need him bad. But I'm trying to understand, like, okay, so because remember, Timber only came into preseason later on. And so we need to get him up to speed, I feel like, to be able to play at Anfield. So should Timber not start against Leeds, or should White just continue to start? That's, because I would imagine that you want Timber to be fit, and the only way to get him fit is to let him play. So, yeah, decisions to be made for sure. Always take the W. Man U really came for it today. But I also think about our preseason, their preseason, what position they're in and what position we're in. I know that to a certain extent we have something to prove. But they have more to prove than anyone else. And so I'm not surprised that they came out all guns blazing wanting to prove a point. And we didn't necessarily feel like we needed to do that. I still feel like we're off in terms of fitness. Rice is not giving fit, and neither is Saka. And those are two of our best players. So, I think we probably went into this game managing it just a bit. It didn't really seem like we remember when we came out in 22, 23. I don't think, we're going to get that level of, we're chasing that feeling and we're not going to get it back again, to be honest. I just think this team feels like they're going to ease into the season. We have quite a few key players that are coming back off of huge hamstring injuries. Havertz, Saka, Gabriel, Timber's coming off of a big injury. So I do think, I think we're going to end up easing ourselves into the season. But when you play up against a team that's desperate to show that they're a completely different side, I think people are forgetting that they, like, United could have gotten relegated last season. So I'm not surprised that they came out the way that they did. I would have loved for us to play much better than what we played. But I'm a little bit like, we got the win, so I can put it behind me. And, I said this yesterday that I'm actually more concerned about the Leeds game than any of our bigger fixtures, because I think we'll be more than competitive in those. Just like today, I know we'll nick some, it is what it is. But the smaller games against the teams that were meant to beat up, I want to be 2-0 up against Leeds in the first 20 minutes of that game. And if we're not, then my head is going to be on Pluto, So Um, I was expecting a little bit of, like, maybe not our best because we weren't our best in preseason, so I didn't think we'd just be different overnight. Was it lower than I thought? Yes, but is it the end of the world? No. So I just needed us to win this game and get over this this like mammoth of a fixture, and then like we'll see where we go from now, from here. Now we're gonna bully Leeds. We'll score at least 4. Hopefully, Jokeris will start and not Havertz. Havertz looked very good as a substitute. Yeah, I think you have to continue to start Jokeris. You cannot begin to build chemistry and yank him out of the side and yank him out of the side. So he should get more time, I think. But the team has to be desperate to feed him the ball, and I don't feel a desperation. I do feel like he's kind of playing Havertz's game, laying the ball off, running into the channel and trying to provide chances for other people. Our game needs to shift. It really cannot be this. For him not to get any shots, no chances, really, us to be crossing the ball into him is just, it's long. So that needs to change for sure. And Leeds at home is a really good game to start putting those building blocks together. Um, let's see. Some Arsenal fans are complaining about our performance, but my question is, would they have taken United's performance and give them the 3 points? Thanks for the great job, Jess. I mean, um, I don't know. I don't, I think maybe I expected a little bit of this. So remember I told you guys yesterday that I could see any result because the United game is just different than any other game, especially away from home. It's hard to predict. They tend to play up to us no matter where they're at. We tend to have the shakes. So I think getting the 3 points to me kind of makes it a little bit less of a damaging performance. Also, understanding that it's the first game of the season. I think if we had played really well, beaten United, there'd be some of the same people putting a lot of emphasis on this bad performance, saying, well, it's just one game and it's United. Um, I think it still remains true that you don't really look at the table until after the first 10 games. I really think we, as Arsenal fans, were so high strung because of the last 3 seasons that we forget like those cardinal rules of the Premier League season, that you really don't want to be as good as you're going to be in the first couple of games. You really just need to win your games in the beginning of the season. You really don't expect players to be super fit in the first game. I mean, we would look bad, but I saw some really poor performances in other games. It just doesn't hit you as hard because it's not us, right? So I think I'm choosing glass half full, that this is as bad as I'm going to see us play, and we're going to look much better against Leeds, and we'll go up from here. But I also understand that some people are just very done with Mikel and the project and all of that. So anything other than perfection is not going to be tolerated. And even if we, like I said, even if we had played well and beaten United, beat the stuffing out of them, they'd be in the comments saying, yeah, well, it's just United. We're meant to win this game. It's nothing. It's so early on in the season. I need to see more than one game. So it can easily go either way, but it's literally the first game of the season, and you know, I understand. Especially, I was way more riled up after last summer's window, that I felt we beat Wolves, and I thought that that was a poor performance. And I remember being like really fired up and being like, "We're shit. We didn't look good." And so I think if you're really frustrated with the window, it's going to carry into these performances and all that kind of stuff, which I understand. And I don't want to, what's the word? Invalidate anybody's feelings, because, yeah, I understand for sure. Um, let's see. Just a performance where I don't feel embarrassed. Can't get worse than this. I agree, Jess. We had literally no midfield, and Zubi and Odegaard moved a little. Rice had a couple of tackles, and in the rest of the time, we played 10 men, only 2 in midfield. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about Declan, because I think at the beginning of the summer, he didn't go to Spain right away, and he was doing like a separate program. And I'm not saying he's injured, but I wonder if there is something going on because where other players don't have any credit in the bank for people, I understand that it's like, I don't like that player. So if they're not playing well, it's just that they're shit. Rice, I think, has enough credit in the bank where you can maybe put two Scoobies together and think that if he's not playing at his best, it's probably not because he's a bad player. It's probably because something is going on. And he just doesn't look fit and he hasn't looked good all preseason and also didn't look good today. So he was actually pretty good in the Bilbao game, but everybody was good in the Bilbao game. So, yeah, we just have to see how things vibe. But we also have to remember we've taken out a DM that's pretty much been our starting DM for about 6 seasons or whatever, 5 seasons. Zuby's getting acclimated to the team. We're trying something new. I really do think we tried to play more direct today. We have to get used to the basketball game. We had a new striker in, and we just have to hope that we get better from here. I think there's plenty of reasons why we didn't look as good as we probably wanted to. Let's see. Galaxy Brain, Love Fest every time where both come out limp. Let's see. Cold, you crashing out over a win at one of our toughest games is obnoxious. You're talking to somebody else. For sure. My fear is Party was way better than we think, and Rice doesn't understand Zuby yet. Hopefully, he will soon because we don't have time. I think Zuby did well, today, to be honest. I don't know if Zuby or Party being so good has anything to do with Rice not having a great game. I think this hand holding thing is total bullshit, and we need to cast this guy away out of our mindset because Zubamendi is very, very good. And I think his performance was actually pretty good today. So we can forget about whatever his name was and move forward. The left center mid position has been a calamity for multiple seasons, even like when Party's been here. So I think it's less about Zuby and Rice not understanding his role. It's the role is shit, and maybe Rice is not as fit as we think. Let's see. Any other top European manager would have their rep torn to shreds over allowing a team that finished 15th last season get so much space and such a free reign at taking shots at our goal. No, not really. I don't think so. I think because we won the game. So I know you hate Mikel and you want him out, but ultimately, like, we won. And, any other European managers getting torn to shreds about a win? No, probably not. I wouldn't want to be a United fan today. So, because even though they played well, we played poor and they still did not beat us, because that would have been the narrative if the things were reversed. So I don't really understand that. I think Arteta will get his when it's justified, but not today. Not today. Let's see. Johnny also says, already forgotten. It's just that we need our midfield to tick. God, our midfield was awful today. We need them to step, but happy with the win in spite of playing with 30% midfield, laughing out loud. Well, let's add a little bit of perspective here. That midfield played all of maybe like 190 minutes together in preseason. And so I get it that it needs to tick and the attack needs to tick, but you have two huge figures down your spine, new figures down your spine. And so I think if we were maybe in a more of a positive mindset and not have finished second and no trophies, I think we'd be able to think pretty clearly that maybe the team needs to gel a little bit. Jokeris didn't play very much in preseason, and that midfield surely didn't play together because I was surprised Norgard did not make the squad because he played so much in preseason. Remember, I was like, fuck, he's not going to start Zubamendi because he's playing Norgard so much. So maybe we need to give them a little bit of time to adapt to each other, maybe also get up to fitness. Rice is not fit. Let's keep it a buck. Say whatever you want about everyone else. Rice is not fit. Sorry. So let Rice get fit. Let them get used to each other. Let Gyökeres adapt. Let him get used to his surroundings. They're both two important players in the spine and C. But it's hard to think clearly when we're frustrated about the window and not winning. And I get that. I get that. I understand. Let's see. Keenan says United plays really open football that helps us to score goals. Our only goal was from a set piece. I'm worried we're going to struggle against low mid blocks even more than last season. I don't know if we could struggle any worse than we did last season. I hear you. I think I don't know. Let's see what happens when we get there. I kind of want to stand back a little bit from too many definitive statements until I actually see the team try to give the ball to the striker that we fucking bought, So until I see that, I'm going to keep some of my, concerns probably at bay because they were learning new shit today. They played on the counter more than anything today. They did not play the slow style that we usually play. And let's get it right. We haven't played a basketball game with Man United in years. Usually we do kind of sit on the edge of our box, edge of their box, and they just hit us on the counter. And so we actually did try to play the basketball game today, and we had opportunities. They were better than we were, and we really struggled. Like all those times that we got 3v3, 3v2, 4v3, to me, those are opportunities if we just make a better pass or, get past our man for once in our lives or take a shot, So I'm gonna hold just a little bit longer until, I, I can't really take much from today's game. We didn't even try to get Gyökeres the ball. It's the first game of the season. Like, I don't know. I can't take too much from it. Not yet. If it becomes a pattern, then yes, but this team has been like military drilled into sitting on the edge of people's boxes and trying to win corners. This was the first time in a long time I saw us try to play direct. There were a lot of times that we were vertical. Sometimes it didn't come off. Sometimes it didn't. I appreciate us trying to do something different. And I hope it continues because I don't actually think we'll do well if we play the way that we did last season. So yeah. Can't blame can't blame Arteta now. The fans gave him the wrong striker. I don't know what that means. The fans didn't do shit. Really. That's why it's important to get players early and play mostly the team that will play in the Prem in preseason. Now they have to do it in the season, which puts pressure on us to win as we learn and as we go during a difficult time, which I completely understand. But that's kind of where we set ourselves up at. It's Gyökeres and Zubi are going to have to integrate, learn their teammates, and win at the same time. So yeah. So and yeah, I would have preferred to get in people early, but we had in people early enough. And I still feel like Arteta kind of dicked around. If you weren't even going to have Norgard in the squad, Zubimendi should have been playing every single preseason minute, So yeah, we just have to wait, and see, I feel. Let's see. Yeah, fans gave him the striker, which is why for 5 years previously he didn't win shit and all the players he got himself. It's just weird. Like, I get it. I get that we played really poorly today, but obviously, do you guys not feel like Gyökeres needs some time to settle in? Or because I know some people, like not the people that never wanted him to begin with. The people that never wanted him to begin with are going to do the I told you so today because they're desperate, because they were ostracized when he scored that header against Bilbao. So they want to get the lick back. So not them, not the people that wanted Sesko and were twerking for him because he was 6'5" and they're attracted to him. Not them, but people that actually wanted Gyökeres. Do you not feel like the guy needs some time to just settle in? Especially with an attack that's going to have to change their whole mindset. He's not a plug and play to how they're going to play with him. He didn't really have a preseason. He played like maybe 120 minutes in preseason. of course we're gonna have to give him a little bit of time. You know, I get that we don't feel like we have time, but it does not change the fact that you can't speed up adaptation. It's gonna take him however long it takes him. So, um, let's see. Um, let's see. It's Jokeris was crap with the basics today. He has to improve ASAP. No excuses. I mean, it takes how long it takes. I think, you know, if you would give Sesko time, you would give anybody time. I don't know why he's not getting more than a game. It's one game. And if anything is kind of, I feel like it's strange for like Arsenal fans too, as well. Like, have you guys not learned in the past, like, players need time to adapt? Do you not remember Raya? People were losing their shit after the Man City game. We won that game, by the way. We beat Man City at home for the first time in like a million years. We had never really beat them before since Arteta has been here. And Raya made a mistake early on. I think Julian Alvarez like pressed him. The ball almost went in the back of the net. And after that game, we spoke ad nauseum about Raya's not good enough. Raya's not good enough. If it wasn't for Raya today, guys, we would have been fucked. And actually, the last time we played at Old Trafford, we would have been fucked if he didn't play as good as he did. But it took him a couple of months to adapt. So honestly, no matter how you feel about our season needing to win, it's not going to change the fact that players need to adapt. So giving him 90 minutes to be perfect or to be up to speed when you know he didn't have a preseason because we watched him fight to get here and sit for 2 months without doing anything, it's just weird. Um, it's just weird. You have to give people more than a game. If we get to like October and he's still not looking like nothing, I can understand that. It's been one fucking game. Give it a break, you know? Sesko didn't do anything either. He headed the ball once. So, whatever. You want to give Jokeris time, but if Madueke misplaces a pass, heaven will fall on earth. Did I say anything about Madueke today? I think I said earlier that I don't remember anything that he did, but I left it there. So you can't do the what about if whatever. I've been pretty, I think, objective with Madueke since he's been here. Even though I think the first time he played and he wasn't great, I still was like, he's going to need time to adapt. So can't really what about me with other players when there's actual evidence of me on this internet not saying anything bad about him, even though he's had a mixed kind of bag since he's been here. And it's another hypothetical. You guys can't use hypotheticals against actual things that I've done. You can't say, well, if Madueke misplaced a pass, then you don't know what I would have done because it didn't happen. So I don't know what you're talking about. I gave Madueke his flowers against Bilbao. I said that it moved me. You guys can go back and look. I was in Hawaii when it happened. You can't what about me on this because no matter who it is, even with Kai, which was probably the one signing that I really did not like, he needed time, and it took everything in my power not to like fully just like, but he needed time, so no, no. Madueke needs time as well, and I never wanted him. He does need time, and he's not even starting, so it's going to take him a minute to get used to things, especially because it's not like they're coming into an attack that's necessarily firing. This team is going to have to find its shooting boots again. So, yeah. Let's see. It's Arteta's dull tactics that's making players look bad. Madueke got roasted by Ahmad all game. Why is everybody acting like he's some magician today? I don't remember anybody acting like he was a magician today. But also, I'm going to be real with you guys. I think if you don't like a player, you're going to expect them to have skills that they do not have, and you should not expect them to have. I don't expect my winger to be a good defender. I don't. That's an Arsenal thing. I don't give a fuck. I expect Madueke to get. Hold on, I think I got a little bit of lag. Give me a second. Can you guys see me now? I think you guys can. I don't expect Madueke to be a great defender. I don't. So if Ahmad blew by him, Ahmad chopped him up. I don't know what to tell you. He's a winger. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't care about that. You know, if Odegaard is dribbling and De Ligt knocks him off the ball, I'm probably going to expect that. Odegaard weighs 120 pounds soaking wet, and De Ligt is a fucking freight train. So I'm probably going to expect him to maybe not win all his 50-50s up against that player. Sometimes players are not good in certain circumstances. You know, like I don't really. Oh, Madueke got beat by Ahmad today. Well, he's not a fucking fullback, so what do you mean? Like, I don't understand that. Madueke, I don't remember what he did today, but if the worst thing that he did today was Ahmad went by him, then fair enough. You know, I don't know what to tell you. This season, I'm not onto any player. It's Arteta and the Cronkies. Madueke sucks. People talk about Leao walking around. What the hell is Madueke? With some of these fouls allowed, it was 60-40 balls today. Yo. I don't really understand what was a foul today and what wasn't, because it felt like when we touched them, it was a foul, and when they touched us, it wasn't. Gabriel clearly fouled in that one little bust up. There was also one where Saka was clearly forearm shiver. I think De Ligt like just knocked him out of bounds, and then Kai Havertz also got knocked to the ground in the second half. I didn't really understand what was a foul, but you know, again, we got the 3 points. I don't know if I have the energy to be like super raging about a win, especially when I expected us to look a little nyeh. You know, I don't like after preseason, I was like, all right, we're a little nyeh. Like we're not that good right now, but we can get better. Let's see. I don't expect us to look like this the entire season. I've learned my lesson. I've had times where I've maybe overreacted about a first game or an early game or a preseason or something like that. And we did end up looking better. Is it enough? I don't know, you know, but we'll obviously get better. Like, I don't know. The ref just wanted to see carnage. He was out of control, bro. Like he didn't had no control over the game. And I think I just feel like we're on the bulletin board for things. I remember when they said that they were gonna lock in on players like faking contact to get fouls. And I understand that Gabriel does this quite a bit when he gets into the corner, like when he gets near the sideline, touchline, whatever, or he's by the corner flag, he will kind of buy a foul. He's not going to do that in the middle of the pitch. He literally got fouled. And I just noticed like some of our players that tend to get more fouls for us, Gabriel, Saka, and Kai, did not get fouls today. And I just think we're on the bulletin board. I think when they said they're going to tamp down on, you know, players faking contact in order to get fouls, it wasn't anyone. It was Arsenal. Like, because he didn't give a fuck if they pushed us out of bounds, whatever. He just did not give us any fouls. Like, it was crazy. Johnny says, but I have to give the ref props for not going for their penalty shouts. MLS, Saliba, and Timber. I agree with you on that one. I can stomach the non-fouls for Gabriel, Kai, and Saka for him not to cave to that because they flopped a lot in the box and they didn't deserve any penalties. There was nothing really there. So I agree. He judged that very well. So I'm going to take the open field fouls at not given if you don't give me a penalty. Yeah. Let's see. Guys, let's be shameless for 1 week. Just rattle meme United fans. What were people's mindset going into this game? Performance or win at all costs being the first game of the season? I mean, I wanted both, but I said even though I kind of was open to any result because I know how these games can go, I was like, I felt like a win was more important than a performance. I think if we had to go between the two, I don't think there's anybody that would have chosen a performance over the win if they had to choose between the two. Obviously, we all want both, but you're lying to yourself if you were saying, "Well, I would have rathered us play better, but we lost." Like, no, you wouldn't have. Um, but hey, we'll see. Um, let's see. Josh said Defo had to win, but didn't expect the performance to be that bad. I hear that. Um, let's see, just preaching sense. We need to take a breath and let the team learn one another. The only thing that matters is these first few games is getting 3 points. And I'll just say, like, I didn't have the same maybe feeling last summer because, or like at the beginning of last season, because nothing had really changed. We kind of went into that season with the exact same team that we had, because remember, we only bought Marino and Cala really. So Cala came in, got injured kind of early, and so did Marino. So I was like, well, we should pretty much be the same. We started getting red cards, the injuries, it spiraled out of control. This season, I do feel like, I know some people are kind of ignoring it, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I did not see them trying to play a more direct game. Did see them try to engage in the basketball game. We got cut out quite a bit, and we did not take advantage of the opportunities we had, but they were there and they tried those things. They also had a new striker and they had a new DM. It was rough, but if there was nothing, we were trying to play the exact same way. We were playing at home against Leeds, so it's not a big 6 game against fucking Old Trafford and United and the referee. And we had the exact same team, then maybe I'd be a little bit more concerned. I'd be like, why do we look so bad? But I can understand 2 new players down your spine. Yeah, you're probably not going to be as great as you would want. I would have preferred probably a little bit better than what we saw, but yeah. Um, let's see. Liverpool drew to United at home last season. No Mbomo, no Cunha, Hoyland, Xerxes conceding 2 goals. I guess you prefer that because it's better to watch, right? I mean, listen, I'm not going to say that anybody needs to pretend like they were happy with that performance, because I know it was bad, but it's to me, it's not the end of the world yet. Like, nobody should be panicking about the first game of the season with all the context included. If you're only thinking about, I want Arteta out, I want him gone by Christmas, so if we're not perfect, then I want him out and I'm done, then fair enough. You're gonna be raging today. You're gonna lose your head. But I don't know if I'm really there yet, because the first game of the season for me is, if you watch most games across the league, there was only a couple of teams that looked really, really good, and they played against some of the worst teams in the league. So we had probably the biggest test. We looked shit. At least we won. So I got to take what I can get. I will start to panic if we play against Leeds and we really struggle to break them open. If we don't score in the first couple of minutes of that game, if it looks concerning in any way, shape, or form, then yes, I will be concerned. I'll be like, fuck, like it's looking dark, but first game of the season, United, you guys know how that game is. It's a crapshoot. Anything can happen. Chelsea dropped points at home. Now, because Arsenal fans are losing their head, nobody's going to talk about Chelsea dropping points at home, because somehow will become the biggest conversation, but we won. But whatever. Let's see. That's what I kept thinking about. Imagine if we had Rodrigo, Simmons, Sesko starting that game. Rodrigo, Simmons, maybe. I don't know how big of a difference Sesko would have made in our team versus Gyökeres. I think they both need time to adapt in different ways. But I get you. If we had some different players up front, maybe we would have had a different vibe going for sure. I just don't think there's much stock in the left center mid position and switching Rice and Marino. Because no matter how bad Rice was, Marino's probably worse in that position. That is definitely a position of concern for me, because it needs to add more to the overall midfield. It just feels like a lost kind of position. Um, and I want to give Rice time to get fit. But even when he is fit, I'm not a big fan of the way that it's played. I really wish there was a more attack minded player in that position. But, that's more of like a macro thing. It doesn't have anything to really do with this game. Um, they got the ball to Sesko for what it's worth. We went a half without Gyökeres touch the ball in a good spot. Yeah. Arteta playing like a terrorist. Quicker we sack him, the better. I don't really think we played terrorist football today. It's not really Arteta's fault that Gyökeres tripped himself and Saka couldn't get past Luke Shaw. It's not really Arteta's fault that Martinelli tried to do a bicycle kick for no fucking reason. It's not really on Arteta that we couldn't pass the ball to each other. I think anybody that says that we were still playing the terrorist football didn't watch the game. We were not trying to pass it a million times. We were trying to pass it forward. We were trying to be more direct. It didn't come off every time, but we weren't playing terrorist football. We weren't. We failed at trying to play more direct and, trying to be more progressive and play on the counter. We failed at that. We weren't good at it, but we were not playing that terrorist football today, guys. We had completely different problems. Sorry. And I cannot really blame Mikel. I can maybe blame him for not bringing in the right players, prioritizing Madueke, maybe not playing this midfield soon enough, not giving Gyökeres minutes the minute he touched down in Asia. But it's not Arteta's fault that Saka couldn't get past Luke Shaw. Like it's not. So yeah. Don't understand why everybody is in this lost kind of vibe. I'm gonna say we won Man United Old Trafford, more than happy. Yeah, no, I hear that. I'm whatever about it at this stage. And Daryl saying we had 15% possession. We had 40% possession. So that's significantly different. We did not have 15% possession. Be serious. Like we didn't. Come on. We weren't great today. We weren't, but I'm not sure that we were trying to pass it a million times. Like we weren't passing it sideways. We were vertical today, maybe to even our detriment, So no, we had other problems today, and it wasn't about playing terrorist football. Honestly, Jess, they weren't watching. Zubi had the most line splitting passes first half. We were clearly trying to progress, but we were sloppy. I agree. We had different problems today, and I think those are going to continue to be our problems because the last two games that we played, and one in preseason and one in the league, you saw a clear shift in Arsenal trying to play more direct. And this fan base has asked for more progressive and to play more open. But I also don't think that they're ready for that because there are consequences to every action. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You are not going to play more vertical, more direct, more open without conceding more shots, more chances, whatever. And so there's things to definitely work out. We were not good enough on the counter. We did not feed Gyökeres enough. Our wingers were not involved / were really poor when they got on the ball. Whatever. Odegaard could have let loose of the ball, released it quicker in some of those circumstances, for sure. Understand those things 110%. But our problem today was not terrorist football. It was. And I don't think our tactics were bad either. I think our execution was poor more than anything. The way we didn't sit back, we tried to go forward. It just didn't work. Yeah. Let's see. Odegaard dribbled through their midfield a number of times instead of passing it to the wing. This is why I'm saying, like, you can be upset about things, but let's be a little bit more accurate about what we're talking about and not just rattle off the same bullshit that we were saying a couple of weeks ago or months ago or whatever, because today's problems were not yesterday's problems. They're still problems that need to be worked through, but we did not try to play stiff ball. We were trying to be progressive and we were sloppy. And we weren't really great at the basketball game, but we need to get used to it. If we're going to be more vertical, we need to be more used to having to kind of do that, the last stitch defending and kind of riding our luck a little bit. We did it a little bit too much today, riding our luck for sure. But I think for the most part, if we could try to figure out how to be better on the counter and make those into viable chances, we have a much better chance of coming out of there with 2 or 3 goals than what we came out there with. But that's just how I saw it. Maybe I need a new prescription, but I just did not see the same type of football that we were trying to play last season. Saka was heavily marked. That's such an ambiguous, inaccurate statement. Saka was heavily marked. Odegaard was probably the only player that progressed the ball, and Zubamendi. He was heavily marked, but I did think when he did get the ball, they nicked it off of him pretty easily. Luke Shaw did it once. Mount did it once, so when he was in space and able to create an opportunity, he couldn't get past his man. So 2 things can be true at the same time, that there were times where he was heavily marked, but when he did get into good positions, he wasn't necessarily on it. But Saka has a lot of credit in the bank for me, to the point where even if I recognize that he didn't have a good game, I'm not going to be calling for his head, because I know that he'll show up with something big eventually. He just wasn't 100% himself today, and nobody was, so there you go. Let's see. There was something right about Arsenal today. Something right or something wrong, or nothing right about Arsenal? What do you mean? Because from the comment section, there was nothing right about us. So yeah. Let's see. Wow, so players can't have an off bad game. So you're not listening. That's fair. If you must not be talking about, you're not talking to me. That's for sure, because I just said that Saka has a lot of credit in the bank. You don't think Raya was 100? I thought he was. Raya was really good today, with his reflex saves and all that, but I still think there's a little bit of hesitancy playing out of the back. So, yeah, there's something there, an edginess, a reluctancy, something, because Raya in the first half had that one moment where he held onto the ball too long and then fouled someone, or not really fouled them, but he had that collision. So again, you can have a good game and not be perfect. And I think that's the thing that people have a hard time with, is if somebody's not perfect, they harp on the 1 or 2 bad moments that they have, but they have way more good moments than bad. Raya had so many good moments, and was possibly one of our better players today. But, I still think that Raya at his peak, we're still a little bit of ways from that, but that doesn't mean that he had a bad game. He wasn't at 100. So yeah. Let's see. I'm talking about guys in the chat who are crucifying Saka for not playing as well today. He was great versus Bilbao, albeit very being preseason and versus Spanish team. Yeah, I think the entire team, to a certain extent, different variations of it, we're not at the races. And so I don't really feel that comfortable cherry picking certain people out of the group, because I just don't think that we can talk about them in isolation, but I don't think there's anybody holding us back. There wasn't everybody playing so well and one person was shit. I think most of the team had a difficult time in some way or another. Saka had a difficult day today. He was not at his best whatsoever, but nobody really was. So maybe it was just more of a team thing than an individual thing. So yeah, Valeria says, do we need a left back? You guys can answer that question. Personally, I don't give a fuck about any more defenders. If Kivior goes, replace him with somebody. But all I can really think about is needing an attacker at this present moment. if there was a left back to come in, I would like them to be a completely different profile than what we have, like a traditional left back that just bombs forward. But do we need one? I don't know if we need one. I think it'd be nice to maybe get someone else, but if we get anything else, it kind of needs to be um an attacker. To me, that's where I'm at. Um, Another defender, you know, like, let me put it this way. No matter who's back there, Arsenal has like the best defense in the league. Like, we were shit today and conceded so many shots, but we still came out with a clean sheet. I don't think there's very many combinations that we can come up with that would hurt that much, but there's still not enough going on in attack where I could, if I saw a left back come in, I think I'd be like, fuck, because we need an attacker. Like, we really do. Saida says, we don't need any more defensive players. Attack is our main problem. Attack, attack, attack. We need it fixed. Unless it's Nuno Mendes, I couldn't care less. Analysis video on Gyökeres after one game is nasty from Sky. Well, the game is the game. Sky, all the big outlets have really bought into hate watching and, making big proclamations before anything has even happened. Gyökeres is a big player coming to Arsenal. And so their whole frame is going to be he flopped already. And so every game that he goes by without playing well is going to be highlighted because people put big stocks into him flopping. So we have to take it on the chin and be confident that the player that we bought is going to come good at some stage and we'll have the last laugh. I wouldn't even think about that shit because those outlets are ridiculous. Like, let's be honest. Like, this is why fan media is so much more popular than Sky and all these other outlets outside of like CBS. It's because they buy into internet nonsense. And if you're going to have to deal with the internet agendas and the social media agenda brigades, then you might as well just watch the content creators instead of watching old ass men doing that shit. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, I expect that. They had like almost like a fail comp thing for Wirtz the other day. Like, if you don't start off well, they're going to cook you until you do. Like, Martinelli was busy doing the Lord's work against Mbumo, protecting Kala and Big Gab. Sure. Zubamendi looked more like Jorginho than Partey. Zubamendi looked really good today, actually. He was one of our better players. I get it that you want Partey to be missed, but I don't think today our problem was not having a DM that was good enough. Our problem was solely attacking. Also, didn't Partey play when we lost to them in the cup? All right. Some people got an agenda. Calafiori, only player who was good today. Once Arteta is gone, the same forwards people write off are going to look like new signings. Some people got an agenda. It's just whatever, man. If you buy a big player, they're going to frame it how they want to. A lot of people have put stocks into Gyökeres flopping. So, yeah. It's better to feed your striker 10 passes and allow him to lose all than not give him any pass, expect a miracle. We need to recognize that there's a legit striker in the squad now. And I think you make a really good point. And I said this in one of our first preseason games. I'm about to read the super chats out as well. But in one of the first preseason games that Gyökeres played, I want to say it was like against Spurs, maybe. He didn't get the ball at all. And that looked like today again. He didn't really get the ball at all. And they kind of fed him against Bilbao. Maybe it was Villarreal. I don't remember. One of the games. It was like the only instruction should be to give Gyökeres the ball. And we still don't seem to have that high enough on our agenda. And I agree with you. I'd prefer us to give him the ball 10 times and for him to fuck it up and for him to touch it once or not at all in a whole half. So and they need to learn how to put people into goal scoring positions. We have, over the last 2 seasons, have created chances for DMs and fullbacks and, and stuff like that. Our attackers are setting up suboptimal options to score goals because Arteta's system is not built around the striker scoring. It's not even really built around the winger scoring, to be fair. They do a lot of the creating. So we need to change that and get with the program. And Arteta's never really been successful with a striker. I think he found a way to make Aubameyang look bad, when he put him at left wing and putting Lacazette central. He also has a little bit of a learning curve on how to adjust things where the striker is not the facilitator and people are facilitating for the striker. And we got a ways to go. We have a ways to go. Mr. Holiday, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Mr. Holiday says, a few takeaways. We still have a world-class defense. We have to give Man United credit for defending well. We have to get used to playing at a faster tempo. The growing pains are good. We will be better. And yeah, I think right now, if you have to defend our attack, it's not that hard. But yes, Man United did well. I think we attempted to play at a faster tempo, but we're not used to losing the ball as much, having to win it back. We actually were winning it back pretty well. I think that's where I'm kind of like looking at people sideways when they're like, Zubimendi didn't play well. I'm like, do you not see how many times he won the ball back, or were you closing your eyes at that point? So we had some good moments where we won the ball back, but ultimately when you play at a faster tempo, we need to be more efficient with the way that we do things, and our execution needs to be much better. But I don't actually think we actually played that slow. I think there was a couple moments where Odegaard could have released the ball a little bit quicker, but ultimately I understand the growing pains of trying to play a more direct style. I do think you saw those today, and if you didn't see them, that's fine, but that's how I interpreted the game, that we tried to play in a different way. We sucked at it, but we ultimately still got the win, sucking really bad. So, it could be worse, but thank you so much for your super chat. Takun says, unpopular take, it's Rice or Zubimendi, not both. I don't think it's that unpopular of a take, Takun. I think many of us have spoken about the chemistry in the midfield and the balance. I still think it's off. I think the only way that it works is if we almost play like a box. And basically you have Rice and Zubimendi in a double pivot, and in front of them you have Odegaard, and then you have to have someone else. Now, back in the Dizzy, that someone else was Xhaka or it was Jesus. Jesus would drop back and almost play like a left 10, and Gabriel Martinelli would move, and it would almost be like a 4-2-2-2. You can do that in several different ways. I feel like that's the only way that works, but right now we don't have anybody that's suitable to play that second number 10 role, kind of like pinching in and giving us more creativity in the central areas. Like I said before, that was Gabriel Jesus. Remember, he used to tuck in, and then Martinelli would almost be like in a 2 with Saka up front. Gabriel Jesus would be in there with Odegaard, and then you had Xhaka and Partey. If we have Rice and Zubi and Odegaard, and let's say Gyökeres and Saka up front in the 2, you're still missing someone. And that second person, whether that's the center forward dropping in or the left wing coming central, they need to be creative, and they need to be kind of techie, and they need to be kind of like a baller. And we don't have that right now. So yeah, I think with the midfield, we have spoken kind of ad nauseum that it'd be nice to have, if we're going to play 4-3-3 and we're going to play this way with the left center mid being more advanced, that we prefer that player to be less of a DM and more of an attacking midfielder, because our defense is so good and we have so much cover in those areas that we maybe could afford to play maybe not 2 10s, but 2 8s, but like the other 8 is actually like more of an attack-minded midfielder. But we're not playing that way. Arteta is very like hell-bent on Zubimindi, Rice, and Odegaard. And so whoever it is, whether it's the center forward or the left wing, needs to pinch in. And if we do play more of like that 4-2-2-2, that person pinching in needs to give a lot more when it comes to creativity. It cannot just be passing the ball sideways and backwards. It really needs to be a lot more than that. So that's why I really wanted Rodrigo for the left wing position, by the way. He actually fit that like a glove because he's somebody that can obviously drift out wide, beat his man. But if he comes into central areas and it's like Rice and Zubi, Odegaard and Rodrigo, Gyökeres and Saka, you're pretty much set. And there's nothing really looking strange there. But without that additional creative player to pinch in from, center forward or left wing, we're missing something. So it's not an unpopular take that we might be better with just one DM and two more advanced midfielders, but we just don't play that way. My only agenda is Arteta, you're saying, Takun. And Takun's also saying, I knew we were starving when people started looking at Nani and calling him the next Rafinha. I mean, listen, I'm not going to write Madueke off after one Premier League game. Would I like to see him start against Leeds? Yes. I think we need to, if it's not better, it needs to be different. Also want to, I think if it's not better, it needs to be different. I do not remember anything that he did, but I also don't think that he could have done anything too bad. I think there's only like that one chance at the end that he probably should have scored. So, I wouldn't call him the next Rafinha. Obviously, Rafinha is a fabulous player. And so giving him comparisons like that is just setting him up to fail. But it's up to Arteta to get the most out of this player because you bet our season on the back of this player. So I want to see him play more games and I want to see Martinelli on the bench. I think at the very least, what we could get is something different. So we'll see. Let's see. When we sign no one else, I'll put that on the ownership, not Arteta. One thing I know is that Gyökeres has a top-class mentality. He will get his goals. Yeah, and I think as a fan base, not the section of the fan base that's going to be preying on his downfall, there's always going to be a section like that. They do not want to be wrong. They wanted Sesko. They're going to be salivating today, saying that I told you so. But us normal folk that want our striker to do well, it'll probably be in our best interest to act normal. And instead of buying into the he's flopping, just be normal about it and be like, he probably just needs some time, all that matters in the first 5 games of the season is get the wins. I do not care about how well we played if it means we lose. Let's see. I'm not worried about Rice. He's had a slow start to the season, but went to be super good for us to the end of the season. I'm not really worried about Rice either. I'm worried more about the way that we use him. And he needs to be in a deeper position, helping Zubimindi and covering the left back and doing the types of things that you buy an elite defensive player for. He's also really good long passing, like just the things that he does really well. 10 times those things with your coaching, and the things that he doesn't do necessarily well, try to limit that exposure. And I think sometimes Arteta gets that flipped. We don't see enough of what he does well, his elite defensive qualities, his freak of, nature, athletic ability, progressing the ball from deep, his long passing. We don't see anywhere near enough of that, but we see him in the pockets, and I don't want to see that. I didn't see a lot of that today, but I do not want us to go back to that. Let him sit next to Zubimindi and deeper in a pivot. And then you need to figure out who else is going to pinch in and create havoc centrally and be like another number 10 because you need it. You're going to need it. You're going to need it. So your left wing needs to be a lot more of a creative player. Eze probably would have been perfect for that role, but they acted like they didn't need it. So yeah. Let's see. Why is getting a backup for Saka a bet for the season? What is it? Arteta's fault Kroenke won't spend the 200 million. We have FFP room. Listen, I think at the end of the day, if you don't think Arteta's culpable, then fair enough. You're never going to think that because that's just your way of thinking. But when you push for players like Madueke and then the people like Ornstein and Gunnar Blog start talking about how he's not really a backup for Saka and he's going to play a lot of minutes. And also, the only times that you've ever seen him play for Arsenal is on the left wing. He's not a backup for Saka anymore. So if you just want to ignore that, fine. But that's just not what we're seeing. We're seeing a player that has been prioritized as the winger signing. And we probably could have used that money to get somebody that lifts the levels a little bit more. There are players that have moved across the Premier League that are probably would have given us more. And there are other players that are still out on the market that probably could have done something. So he's never once since he's been at Arsenal played right wing. He's only played on the left. He's not a backup for Saka. And if you don't believe me, go look at what Gunnar Blog said. Go look at what Ornstein said. The two of them said they do not see him as a backup. They don't see him as a backup. This is not me saying that. This is the people you guys believe ad nauseum. These are the people that you guys believe. If they say it, it's true. And then what has happened since then in terms of the way Arteta has used him has mirrored that. He's not a backup for Saka. He was never that. He's a tier 1 player in their mind, which is somebody that could start. And the only places that he's played for Arsenal since he's been here has been on the left. But if you don't want Arteta to be culpable for prioritizing a player that does not move the needle for our ceiling, then fair enough. I know that there's like this staunch defense in Nani Madueke. I'm going to give him time. I think he has all the capability of being better than Martinelli. But is he what we needed, which was somebody that lifts the levels of this team, has the same almost level as Saka, somebody that strikes fear in the opposition, somebody that helps us balance the left-hand side? Probably not, So I just kind of think like we need to stop acting like Madueke is a backup. I know that that's what you guys were saying when we first signed him and we were trying to do hopium copium, but that's been debunked not only by the way that the manager has used him, but by the journalists that you guys know are credible when it comes to Arsenal. So, yeah, he's not a backup. He's not. And yeah, it is kind of betting our season on that because we needed a left winger that was going to bring us up a level and a striker. And you didn't get that. You got Madueke. He's not a backup. Not for Saka, at least. And if he's a backup for Martinelli, we surely didn't do what we needed to do there. Let's see. I'd like more in behind the striker, like 22-23 season. That was when we saw the best of Rodrigo wouldn't have saved this performance today, but we'll never know. It's not about saving this performance. Everybody was not great. I think there wasn't one player that was going to come in and just make this performance better. But it is, to me, this is one game in a long season. We know that. So there's nobody that would have come in and saved us. Messi wouldn't have saved us today. But that doesn't mean that Rodrigo wouldn't have helped us long term. It's more than just today. This is one game in a long season. Let's see. United broke our press easily, which put us on the back foot. A clean sheet was a miracle. It doesn't matter what you think about United as a team. Madueke will replace Martinelli in following summers. We will get another left wing. Trossard will go. Trossard also didn't play today, and I know he's coming back off of injury, but there's, Kivior didn't make the squad, which, now like tier 1 reporters from Poland are saying that he could go to Porto. So maybe that's somebody who goes. And, Trossard is a player that usually would come in. To me, if I'm at Trossard and I watch that anyway, I would be like, well, I probably need to be looking for somewhere to go because Madueke is definitely coming in before me. And yeah, if you spend 50 million on a player, he better come in, So if I was Trossard, I'd be looking for somewhere to go. And I hope he does go because then we can see for sure if Arsenal are prepared to bring in another attacker if they sell. Because I want that debunked. The amount of people that are acting like, well, if we just sell, we're going to get someone. No. Well, it's just simple math. If you spend that amount of money, you need to sell. Okay. If we say we can't stomach this awful robotic, uninspiring, dull, negative, rigid, cowardly football, we're called fake fans and told to support a rival club. If it were after me, Madueke would start. If it was up to you, Madueke would start and Trossard would come for him. Martinelli would play against Bolton and Preston. He's like the new Sterling. Am I being harsh? I don't think so. Your opinion is your opinion. I don't necessarily not share that opinion. I think it's it's hard at this stage because it feels like beating a dead horse, but I just think Martinelli is kind of done. And I see a lot more value in Trossard coming off of the bench than I do him. One thing I know about Trossard, he's coming off of that bench and scoring a goal for us. He may not like him when he starts. He may not be perfect technically, but I can trust him to score a goal in big games when we need it and off of the bench. I don't see a lot of outside of he's good defensively that makes Martinelli the right person to be the starter and or the person coming in off the bench, really. But Trossard is probably the only person that will go because people will want him potentially. And he's not going to want to sit around on the bench. So, yeah. Let's see. So and just to wrap this part of the conversation up, it's yeah, you can blame KSC for not spending enough. Like you want them to spend like what you're asking them to do is spend 300 instead of 200 million, go get Rodrigo because that's what he's going to cost because we've already spent 200 million without sales. But it's still up to the actual manager who's picking these players and the sporting director to still utilize the money that they do get well. And I don't necessarily feel like you can say that because there's two things can be true at the same time, that the Cronkies are tight and they're not as ambitious as we would like them to be. But are we getting no money? No, we're not. Arteta still has spent quite a bit of money and we still don't have a star left winger. And we've needed one for a while. He's barely getting a striker and he went like 7 years without a real striker. So I get what you're saying, but there's never one person to blame. And guess what? The Cronkies are never selling this club. As long as we're a top 4 club, they're not going anywhere. So you guys can scream into the abyss about KSC, but unless they're giving us $0, we started off this window with 200 million to spend. We spent that, and your manager prioritized Madueke. He knows more than we know how tight these guys are. He played for Arsenal, and now he's the manager. So he knows that there's going to be an end to the expenditure. So instead of prioritizing Madueke, which again, the Ornsteins, the Gunner blogs, the Charles Wattses, everybody out there, the Sammy McBells, all of them have all said he prioritized that signing. He really wanted Madueke. So instead of going and getting the player that would change your life, you went to go get just another guy. And now you're begging for more money. And you know Daddy Cronky is tight. So yeah, I think what people want to do is shift the blame fully away from Mikel because the Cronkies won't spend 300 million instead of the 200 million, but you're still responsible for something, and trying to relieve him from any sort of responsibility when you know he prioritized Madueke, and then also sitting there and trying to say that he's not a backup when you've watched him play on the left wing. He's not a Saka backup, and you know that feels disingenuous, and like you just don't want Arteta to be in the hot seat. And he fucked it. Like he just did. You know, he just needed to get a top level left wing. That's all he needed to do. He needed to pull his big boy panties up and say, you know what, Martinelli, find somewhere new to go. Your services are no longer needed. If you don't find a new place, you're going to be in the under 21s. Bring in your star left winger and then find the rest of the money, the extra 30 million that we would have needed for Norgard and Mascara and Kepa. Find that in sales. But he prioritized Madueke. So I don't really understand. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Like he clearly has some culpability here. Let's see. It's not the Cronkies. We don't spend wisely. It's not just one person, and that's what drives me crazy. It's like it's just the players. It's just Mikel. It's just the Cronkies. It's not just one person. Everybody is culpable. The players didn't play well enough today, but I don't necessarily feel like on today Arteta fucked it. But did Arteta make decisions off the pitch that have added to our inability to maybe do stuff on the pitch today? Probably. You know, Arteta has some culpability here. Could the Cronkies be a lot more ambitious and just give the money to get Eze and stop fucking around? Yes. But all of this has come together to create a cocktail of madness that keeps us 2 to 5% away from winning it all. And it's frustrating. And it's not just one person. And that's what frustrates me so much. It's like, I'm just going to shift all the blame to the Cronkies. When we spent 200 million, this is a big window. You know, some people spent similar to us and chose to spend it all on attack. All. We played a team today that chose to spend all of their money on attack. That's it. You have choices. We made ours. We made ours. We could have used sales to get Mascara, Kepa, and Norgard, and use that 30 million or whatever to start going towards an attacker. We made choices. We prioritize backfilling the squad, bringing in Madueke. That's what we prioritized. And Arteta's a part of that. So they made him a manager, by the way. So he's not just getting whatever they give him. They're all in cahoots. It's not just one person. Let's see. There was a time I truly believed we needed one or two players. They neglected the attack for so long. Now they have to compensate for all the opportunities they wasted. The only thing I would say, Valeria, is that it does feel like we're further away now, but I actually just think if we focused on quality over quantity and, you know, we just had a Rodrigo on the left, I just feel like we would feel so different. It feels like we need a lot more, but I really don't even think it's that. I really don't. We have neglected for a long time, but let's say we don't get Madueke and we just bring on Rodrigo, Gyökeres, we had Zubimendi, whatever. We're bringing in Ethan, whatever. I do feel like we would be right there. We would be right there, you know, but that's just me. Like, I don't feel like we need like a full rebuild or anything near it. Let's see. Arteta makes decisions based on the budget. Who gives him that budget? That's not enough every window. We spent 200 million. He spent 50 million on Madueke. He could have spent 50 million on anything else. Bullshit. It's so hard to have conversations because it's like there's no acceptance that the manager is culpable. Everybody is. You know, they just want to figure out a way to place all of the blame. Do you guys realize that 200 million is a lot of money? A lot of clubs do not spend anywhere near that amount. They don't. Arteta knows more than anyone, especially because he ices these players out, and he is also a reason why we can't sell these players, because he wants them, brings them in, whatever, and then doesn't play them, ices them out, keeps them a little bit longer, damages their value, and then we don't get to sell them anyway. So he knows that we probably won't be able to sell. Players are hard to move on, and that I'm only going to get about 200 million, which is still a lot of money. You guys are acting like it's not a lot of money. It is a ton of money, and taking a big chunk of that and spending it on Madueke was a choice. Adam Wharton, Palace, Carlos Baliba, Brighton, Dean Henderson, back Man United, goalkeeper position, Mark Gahey, Crystal Palace captain, Man United, all problem solved. I don't know what this means. Let's see. Balance is needed. Some fans are so against Arteta that they want the team to fail, but also some people are so for Arteta that they blame everyone else. I've always said this, and I want to end the show here, that both sides are incredibly annoying because they blame each other. The super negative blame the super positive, and the super positive blame the super negative. But I feel like most answers are nuanced and are very much so in the middle. And because nobody wants to give a little or see anybody else's side, we have these super disingenuous conversations that it's all on the Cronkies. It's just the Cronkies. Arteta has his hand tied behind his back. He wanted a striker and they didn't get him one. And now it's all their fault that we're not winning. Or then you have the people that it's just Arteta. He's had enough money. The Cronkies have given him enough. He's the fuck up. Or you have the people that are like, the players are just not good enough, blah, blah. It's never just one person. The one thing I will say, though, is that we've changed all the players. We've changed the sporting director, and we know the ownership is not going to change. The only thing that hasn't changed is probably the manager. And so if it comes down to it, just simple deduction, we'll probably get to a point where we're not going to change all the players again. We're not going to get a new sporting director. The owners are not going to change. So the one thing that we may have to change is probably you, but that's a conversation for the end of the season for sure. Takun says, I struggle to see how the blame is not mostly on Arteta. I mean, yeah, I just think everybody is pretty culpable, to be honest. But, I think at this stage, because he's so ingrained in how the squad has been built, that it's really difficult for me to see beyond him. Because, like yesterday, we're having this super stupid conversation where people were like, yeah, but Odegaard is the problem. We need to strip him of the captaincy. And I'm like, yeah, well, who chose him as the captain? It's Mikel, so no matter how you slice it, a lot of these things do come back to him. I would say the one thing that doesn't come back to him is the ambition from the Cronkies that goes beyond that initial money that we get. So whether it was the 115 that we were getting or the 200 million that we've gotten in the 2023-2024 summer window and this past window, there is a little step that we could go further that would mean, even though we signed Havertz, even though we signed Madueke, even though we couldn't sell Eddie and Kedia, even though we didn't sell ESR, even though we're struggling to sell, Sambi and that we could still get that additional player. That is probably the one thing I'll look at the Cronkies and be like, if you were ambitious, you would give that money. You would give that money and make it so that we could get that player, even though we already bought these other players. But they do just enough. And with tight owners, you cannot afford to sign Havertz. You cannot afford to sign Madueke. You have to get things almost perfect. And we tend to get the window probably like 60%, 70%, but that additional 30% ends up really hurting us because even if Havertz is serviceable, even if Madueke is better than Martinelli, that still wasn't what we needed, So yeah, but listen, let's go ahead and end it there. We won. So surely we don't need to, go on any further. We won the game. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel on the way out. Like Zachary said, 3 points, y'all, and that is definitely something to be happy about. Make sure that you guys are here tomorrow because we'll go back to our regular, live stream every day, for the most part, Monday through Thursday. And we'll look forward to Leeds, which should be smooth sailing, but don't get bogged down too much, But I had a meltdown after Leeds 1-0 away from home a couple years ago, so I totally understand it. Like and subscribe on the way out, and I love you guys to death, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.